Xi Jinping of China has promised to work together with Australia to develop long-lasting ties. Welcome to Eagle News Channel. On the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Australia, Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Australian counterpart Malcolm Turnbull exchanged messages of congratulations. This is the most recent indication of the strengthening of relations between these two major economic partners. On Wednesday, the state-run China Central Television announced that President Xi had communicated with both the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, and the Governor-General of Australia, David Hurley. According to CCTV, President Xi Jinping stated that China is eager to collaborate with Australia to advance the sustainable development of bilateral relations and that he believes that maintaining a stable and healthy diplomatic relationship is in the best interest of both countries. A diplomatic reset with China has been put into action following the election of a centre-left Labour government in Australia in May. This has allowed for the mending of ties that had become strained under the leadership of the former Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. Penny Wong, the Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs, is currently in China for the first state visit by a senior Australian diplomat since 2018. While there, she is scheduled to meet with her Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi. The Chinese government became enraged in April 2020 as a result of calls made by Morrison for an international probe into the origins of the COVID-19 virus. Later on, it imposed economic restrictions on a variety of exports from Australia, including those of wine, barley, and beef. Following Morrison's defeat at the polls, both sides have participated in a number of high-level ministerial discussions, the most recent of which included conversations between Albanese and Xi on the margins of the G20 summit in November. On Wednesday, Albanese stated that he wants Australia to have a stable relationship with China in a post that he made on Twitter. According to the statement made by the leader of Australia, "We will cooperate where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in whatever is in the national interest." During a rare summit, the President of China, Xi Jinping, called for improved relations with Australia. The leaders of Australia and China had a brief conversation during the G20 conference that was held in Japan in 2019, but they have not had a proper sit-down meeting in more than half a decade. Tuesday marked the first official summit between China and Australia in more than 5 years, and it was at this meeting that Chinese President Xi Jinping urged for relations between the two countries to improve and grow. After years of antagonism that impeded economic ties and froze top-level discussions, the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, stated that the meeting had been pleasant and constructive. Although they were only 32 minutes long and took place on the sidelines of a G20 conference in Bali, the conversations marked a significant turning point in diplomatic relations. The leaders of Australia and China had a brief conversation at the G20 summit that was held in Japan in 2019, but they have not had a proper sit-down with one another in more than half a decade. Australia's willingness to legislate against overseas influence operations, to bar Huawei from 5G contracts, and to call for an independent investigation into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic have all infuriated China. China has expressed its displeasure with these actions on multiple occasions. In recent years, Beijing has imposed punishing restrictions on Australian imports, frozen ministerial contacts, and thrown relations into the gravest crisis since the crackdown in Tiananmen Square in 1989. These actions have put relations into an impasse. Sanctions have been placed on a wide variety of Australian exports, ranging from barley and coal to wine, meat, and even infant formula in China. According to Xi, the historically cordial ties that existed between the two nations are worth cherishing. "Our connection is one that should be strengthened, kept alive, and further developed since it is in line with the core interests of the people in both of our countries." China's spectacular economic ascent has been powered in great part by the resources that China has purchased from Australia, which has contributed significantly to Australia's prosperity. Iron ore, coal, and natural gas are three of Australia's most valuable exports, and the country is one of the world's leading exporters of iron ore. The Australian capital of Canberra had framed the face-to-face meeting as a win in and of itself, so attempting to temper expectations that the negotiations would completely restore relations or bring about immediate economic relief. "I'm extremely delighted that we are having this meeting today," Albanese said. "It's been a while since we've had one. There have been some disagreements between us." He stressed that Australia would stand up for its principles despite the fact that he welcomed the opportunity to discuss. "The importance of our two-way interaction cannot be overstated," he remarked. The two nations have also competed for influence in the South Pacific, an area where China has invested large sums of money and worked to expand its sphere of influence in a number of relatively minor but strategically important island states. The United States and Australia have reason to believe that China is attempting to build a military presence in the South Pacific. Such an action would throw off the current military equilibrium that exists in the region. When it was revealed that China had signed a secret security arrangement with the Solomon Islands, Canberra responded with what could be described as a thinly veiled panic. This deal allowed for the deployment of Chinese security forces on the Solomon Islands. Last month, the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, Manasseh Sogavare, told AFP that he would not allow a foreign military facility to be established in his country. Support the channel by like and share the video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell to receive the latest news. Thank you for watching.